The Democratic governor of New Mexico said she expects legal challenges, but was compelled to act because of recent shootings, including the death of an 11-year-old boy outside a minor league baseball stadium this week. She said the state police are going to be responsible for enforcing what amounts to civil violations. I urge the state police in New Mexico and every state police officer, every local police officer, every sheriff, please reread your oath, read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and also read Ordinary Men, please. So the state police are going to do it because I can't believe this. This is great. The Albuquerque police chief, Harold Medina, said, I'm not enforcing this. And Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen said, I'm uneasy about it because it raises too many questions about constitutional rights. You're uneasy about it? I may want to do things. Me as a human, I may want to do things. But there are certain things that God granted all people that I am sworn to never violate. Stop being so mamby-pamby wussy. Step to the plate. You can say, I feel uneasy because, but then step to the plate. This is a violation of God-given rights. Now, let me ask you, why is it only 30 days? Why'd she only do this for 30 days? Just to take a breather? We all have to take a breather. No. I think she picked 30 days because it won't have time to get through court. And so if it's not challenged in court, does it stand if it's just temporary? Does it stand or not? I don't know. She did it, got away with it. It didn't go to court. This must go to court, all the way to the Supreme Court. 30 days, 30 seconds. You cannot violate the Constitution. Yes or no? It cannot be ambiguous. And I think that's why she did it. Now listen to this story. Sunday afternoon, dozens of gun rights activists gathered in Old Town Albuquerque to voice their displeasure. Gun rights activists? Were they flown in from the NRA or Gun Owners of America? Who are these people? Or are they just Americans concerned about the violation of their civil rights? There is a difference between an activist and a standard citizen standing up and going, no. But if they tag you as an activist, you don't want to be an activist. I don't want to be an activist. Last thing I want to be is an activist. I would just like people to leave me, my business, my family alone and do the same for other businesses, families, and citizens. Leave us alone. Protesters proudly displayed American, Gadsden, and Come and Take It flags. A man was holding a sign addressed to Grisham that read, Our founding fathers warned us about you. A woman was holding a sign that stated, Gun rights are women's rights. So far, those signs 100% accurate. A demonstrator proclaimed, This will not stand. We will not comply. Good. A woman identifying as an indigenous person. Oh, God. A woman identifying as an indigenous person told the crowd, The law doesn't protect us. Right. Another woman, we don't know what color she is. We had to identify the one indigenous person. Everyone else, we'll let you assume whatever race you think is really bad. Whites. Another woman said, our rights come from God and our privileges come from government. One speaker at the armed rally in Albuquerque, defying the gun-carrying ban, told the crowd they need to go out and do this every day or else it wouldn't have an impact. There was one anti-gun demonstrator wearing a mask. But the gun activist gave him a chance to speak and then attempted to refute his claims. Oh, so they believed in free speech, too. The Senate, the state, must justify the carry prohibition by demonstrating that it is consistent with the nation's historic tradition of firearm regulation. But it is impossible for the state to meet this burden because there is no such historic tradition of firearms regulation in the nation. This according to a new lawsuit. Throughout the suit, the plaintiffs cite a 22 Supreme Court decision that struck down the New York gun law. Good. Ron DeSantis ripped it. Ron DeSantis came out and said she's now asserting the power to infringe on a Second Amendment right by executive fiat. An assertion is not surprising like this since 2020. Public health has become the pretext for depriving citizens of civil liberties and trampling on our constitutional rights. It ends when I'm president. Your Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Amen. Jonathan Turley said this is absolutely unconstitutional.
Can I add a couple things to this, Glenn?
Yeah.
Ted Lieu, the congressman, Democrat, we would agree on him on basically nothing. And he would support all sorts of gun laws that we would consider unconstitutional. So this is not someone coming from our side of the argument. He wrote about this. I support gun safety laws. However, this order from the governor of New Mexico violates the U.S. Constitution. No state in the union can suspend the federal Constitution. There is no such thing as a state public health emergency exception to the U.S. Constitution. Now, I feel like a lot of Democrats for the last 3 years have been telling us there very much is a public health exception to the U.S. Constitution. However, I think it's important to, when someone is right, to point out that they're right.
And well, notice what he said, though. It's a federal constitution, so no state can override the federal constitution. He didn't say the feds can't override it.
No, and believe me, we would disagree with him on tons of stuff here. But it is true that the state cannot override it, and it's important because there have been times. I mean, you go back in history, you find plenty of times where things were done to the U.S. Constitution that I would not approve of at the federal level. But the state certainly can't do it.
So wait a minute. So I don't understand this problem. Are you saying that if there's a federal law, let's say on, I don't know, marijuana, or, let me think of another one, immigration status, that it causes a problem when the state or the cities disagree with the feds and just go their own way?
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. And this is an increasing tactic done by the left. You mentioned one tactic that they've attempted, which is this idea of passing these crazy laws they know are unconstitutional, but passing them for short periods of time. The exact ruling that came out from New York, what was it, last year? Was a situation where this occurred. They passed a gun law. They knew, they had to have known it was unconstitutional. It was blatantly unconstitutional. And what they tried to do when they realized it got taken up to the court, they tried to fight it on all the lower levels to try to say, oh, well, for this reason, it shouldn't go to court. And they tried to win all those early rulings. They didn't. They lost them all. And once they lost them all, they basically nullified their own law. They withdrew the law, hoping that the court would say, well, the law doesn't exist anymore, so we can't rule on it. And the court, to their credit, said, no, that's not going to work. We're going to talk about this anyway, even though it's now supposedly moot because you ran away from the courts. You tried to evade the courts.
It's only moot if you can stop the court from ruling on it. Then you can try it again.
Yep.
And again and again and again.
So that is what she's trying to do here, I believe.
I am telling you, we are, and I've said this now for 4 years or so, we're one emergency away. We're one emergency away. all that has to happen, and it's got to be a major one, but we are a September 11th away from all of this going away.
And what they're trying to do now is just manufacture those September 11th out of things like gun violence problems or climate change issues.
The attack on the Capitol, which every American was against. Mm-hmm. Look at this. George Floyd, every American was against what happened. Every American. I don't know anyone who said, oh, no, he was right. The cop was right. No. I don't know a single one. And they used that to divide us, even though there was no division. None whatsoever. They not only manufacture things, but then when we're all in alignment, they still manufacture the division.
And going back to January 6th here, Glenn, let me ask you this question, and I mean this sincerely. What's the real insurrection? Is it a bunch of idiots in horn hats ransacking the Capitol? Or is it a governor of a state overturning the Second Amendment by herself? Is it the federal government saying, you know what? $500 billion of student loans, kapoof. They're just gone forever. Is it the eviction moratorium that they just implemented? Which one is really challenging our civilization as it stands? Which one is doing it?
They're saying that January 6th, which we were all united on, and still are pretty united now. The gray areas have started to come because of the way the FBI has handled this. But none of us are against the people who are breaking the glass in the windows and tearing everything up and came in hoods and helmets and everything else. None of us are against. None of us are for that. But what they've done since then, they say that group was trying to overthrow the Constitution. No, Stu is exactly right. It's what the courts and the FBI have done. Now they are causing the constitutional crisis. They are the ones. That's why, people are like, we should secede. No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. I stand by our founding documents as written. We haven't used them in about 100 years, so don't tell me they failed. We haven't used them. And beyond not using them, now we are in violation of them almost every single day. And it's not me. I'm not anti-government. I am anti-unconstitutional government. I'm fine when the government's playing, in the rules. As long as they're playing by the rules, I'm perfectly fine. They're not playing by the rules, gang. Well, that's why we've got to not play by the rules. No, that makes us them. How about we try that old dusty document that no one has tried? Tell me what you want. Tell me what kind of country you want. Now, if you want a fascistic, you want one led by a strong leader, then you're going to have to go away from the Constitution. I want people to be free, to be left alone, for there is rule of law, that we judge every man. Justice is blind. I want that one, and we already have the formula for that. I want that pulled off the shelf and actually applied